Hello, all, and welcome back to another episode of Movies and Us, a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today we are going to be reviewing the film Megalopolis. And we have some exciting news, okay? This is an exciting day, an exciting recording. Tell us why, Sarah.
So normally when we record, we are on other parts of the country because I live in a different state than Jen does. But for this very special recording, we just went and watched this movie together.
Yes, we did.
Less than an hour ago.
We shared a large popcorn. It was fabulous.
We did. It was great. We got extra butter.
Extra butter. This is very important. If you're not an extra butter person, I don't know what's wrong with you. I feel very passionately about this.
And so now we are back. We are just less than an hour post-movie with our reactions, and we are in the same location.
Yes,
we can see each other in person as we are recording this, which is just so much fun.
So the TLDR is, warning, if this episode is extra chaotic, extra unhinged, extra giggly, that's why, because we are in person, we are IRL, which is thrilling. It's so exciting.
It's incredible.
It's an exciting day. I get to see all of the reactions and facial expressions in person from Sarah. And what better movie to have this conversation in person than Megalopolis? Okay,
perfect.
So this is so funny because we always do this online, but I'm going to introduce you now to include the IMDb summary for Megalopolis.
All right, buckle up. The city of New Rome is the main conflict between Caesar Catalina, a brilliant artist in favor of a utopian future, and the greedy mayor, Franklin Cicero. Between them is Julia Cicero, her loyalty divided between her father and her beloved.
Oh my gosh. That's so many things in one movie.
Also, this summary says his name is Franklin, spelled with a Y, mind you. But in the movie, he specifically said that he is Frank, like Frank Sinatra, and he says Francis. And so I'm like, IMDb summary.
Come on, we've got the fact checker.
Did you watch the movie? Because there's a whole scene when he says that he's not Franklin.
Oh, man. Yeah. We have bones to pick with this movie. That will be the first of many. So buckle in. This is going to be a fun ride. Okay. So on Movies and Us, we do our one-sentence summaries. We're going to do ours today. Sarah, what is your one-sentence summary for Megalopolis?
Mine is, time stops for no man, unless that man is in love.
Nice! I have to say, I was there when the one-sentence summary came to you.
Well,
we were strolling through the park on the way home.
So that is the third version.
Oh, what was the first version?
The first version, where we were in the park, is time stops for no man except for Adam Driver. And then the second version is unless you're Adam Driver. And then as soon as we walked into your building, then I came up with the third version.
The iterative process.
So
Just like, it's like this movie could use iterative processes as well, perhaps.
But your one sentence summary just came from real life. It was the things that you said.
Yeah. Well, we were workshopping our one sentence summaries, and I was like, I don't know what my one sentence summary is going to be because I have no brain cells left after this movie. But I walked to the theater, and you were so patient with me as I, for the next 30 minutes, literally said no other words other than, oh wow. Oh my. Oh no. In a loop. Mm-hmm. And it would be like silent. We'd just be strolling. And then it would just escape out of my mouth. And I'm like, oh. So that was going to be my first one sentence summary. And then as we were walking and strolling and observing, real life happening, I was like, real life is so good. It can be very good. I'm glad we are back in reality after being in the world of Megalopolis. So my one sentence summary, which was heavily workshopped by you, is reality can be better than fiction sometimes. Which says nothing about the movie and mostly about my feelings.
which is fine. It is one sentence.
It is one sentence.
And it summarizes your feelings. And I think that that's great.
My previous version, well, we're in the spirit of sharing our iterations. So, all right. We're going to dive in and share our thoughts, if we can somehow organize them, for Megalopolis. In this initial section, we will not spoil this movie. So, we will include a spoiler, and then we will dive fully into everything that happens in this movie. Yeah, stream of consciousness. Now that we're, I think, like an hour out from watching the movie.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Yep. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is oh wow.
Oh wow. Oh my.
This is a confounding movie. There's a lot that happens here. So
where to begin?
Yeah, my main issue with it is, unsurprisingly, the script.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone talks in a way that no human talks.
Yes.
And everything feels unnatural, especially everything that any female character says. And so that made it really unpleasant to watch, because the dialogue is very odd, and then the screenplay is a little bit of a muddled mess. I am going to say some nice things about it, so yeah.
Wow.
We are surprised.
Thrilled. This is good.
My favorite thing about this film is the costuming. The costuming is phenomenal. It's gorgeous. And the intentionality, the fabrics that were used, the colors that were used, the design is this very interesting, like, modern play on, like, Roman dress.
Yeah.
Very fascinating choices. So I loved looking at the costumes. And some of the sets too are beautiful, but sometimes, like, when we get a little too into, like, CGI and stuff, some of it didn't look great, but there are some sets in this that are also very gorgeous. And I do appreciate this, like, swing for the fences thing that this does, this unbridled creativity. I respect that to a degree, but I didn't have a fun time watching this movie because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm kind of two minds about it, because it's so creative and, like, just out of the box. Like, I want to mine it and see, like, okay, like,
is there
what,
something there?
Yeah, what like really good stuff is in here. But I also found it really tedious to watch. So I don't know what to do with that.
That is quite the review, and I appreciate that phrasing so deeply, because this movie felt so long, y'all. So long. I think it was in the first opening scene where we meet all of our big characters. Like, we meet Cicero, we meet Adam Driver's character, Caesar, and they're all in this like building project and doing their, like, spewing of political stuff. And then we also meet the mayor's daughter. That scene where I was like, this would have been the moment where we're like, okay, we're going somewhere. And it was just really strange. Like you mentioned, the characters don't speak like human beings. And then I also don't feel like I know who these characters are and what they want. So I'm like, what are we doing here? I had this thought frequently while watching this movie, where I was like, I've never felt this in a movie ever in my life. This is the first time where I was like, I feel like a movie is happening to me right now, and it is washing over me, and I feel like there's, like, expressions of emotion and expressions of events, but, like, I feel so disconnected to them. So I'm like, the movie is happening to me, you know? Like, I don't know what we're doing, where we're going. Yeah, it's tedious to watch. Is a good phrasing. A lot of perplexing, funny moments for us to dive into in the spoiler territory. But in general, I think you have a slightly more positive review of this movie than I do.
Yeah, I feel more positively about it than you do. But I think I tend to, I think I'm more willing to give a little like leeway to movies that are just like so off the wall creative, because I respect that creativity.
Yeah.
But I did not enjoy this movie. So
Yeah.
this is one of those that I'm curious though, because this is fresh out of the theater.
Yeah.
So if I spend time thinking about this, will I see it more favorably in the future? I don't know. But sometimes that happens with movies, especially really like mixed creative movies like this.
Yeah.
It's usually when like, okay, after I've had time to sort out my feelings, sometimes my opinions change. So, but this is just fresh out of the theater. So
yeah,
it's mostly
so
just confusion.
It's mostly just, oh my, oh wow. Well, it is fascinating to think about this movie in the context of Francis Ford Coppola's career being at the end, this like dream project that he's wanted to make for years and decades, and kind of that being a lens into like who he is as a creator, what ideas he's fascinated by, a little bit like The Fabelmans. Being kind of people talking about it as this like key in this window into like what is Spielberg really like captivated by, and perhaps this will be that key into the rest of his filmography, the technical pieces, the thematic pieces. I don't know, like that might be the case over time.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get there and read the analyses to inform myself, because I feel like this comparison is really interesting of like the United States and the future of the United States and how it can be compared to Rome and the tendencies, the things that Rome also was captivated by, but also like the ethos of Rome, and then it leading to its downfall and all of that. It's like kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah.
But it's so heavy-handed in this movie.
Yes.
And I love a good metaphor, y'all. Yeah. I love some great metaphors, but I don't like them to be handed to me on a silver platter. I want to work for them. Yeah. I want to search for them. I want to mull on them. But I feel like they were just like hitting us over the head with the metaphors. And which is okay, that's fine. Maybe let's get that. I could forgive that if I felt like by the end of the movie, the film had a clearer stance on what it wants to say. Yeah. About the future of this country, and especially all of these like very clear allusions to real life events. I'm like, yes, we can't be doing that and then not having a point of view. Yeah. So I feel similar feelings that I did after Alex Garland's Civil War, which is if we're gonna do this, let's have something to say about it, because it's just big and important and top of mind for a lot of people right now.
Yeah. The metaphor piece of it is one of the things that I kind of am struggling with a little bit, because like the creativity and the visuals make me want to like think about this movie and like mull on things. Yeah. But at the same time, it just beats you over the head with this Roman Empire metaphor. And so to me, it's trying to be profound, but it's just saying what it's trying to say rather than saying it elegantly, you know, or using this metaphor in a really graceful way. And then you're like piecing things together. And that's really satisfying in a movie when it's like, how did these things come together? And then you're finally able to bring them all together and it's coherent. But this is just kind of like Roman Empire metaphor, and we're just gonna like beat you over the head with it for 2 hours. Yeah. And all of these other weird things happen, but they don't actually seem to go together. I don't know, they might go together, but they don't clearly seem to. So you're just left with all of these like disparate pieces, and then everything that's said has like such import to it. Oh my gosh, like all of these things, like we're waxing really poetic. Yes. Every scene, but not saying anything. No. And so like I so struggled with the dialogue.
Oh
like,
yeah, it's really rough. It's really rough.
It's painful.
Every time, and Lawrence Fishburne has such an epic voice that is fit for saying profound things that stick with you for your lifetime, you know? but they use his voice so often, and then they also use his voice to say nothing so often. And I was like, it's Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
We've got a deep, booming voice of God. You know what I mean? Like, we got to use that either sparingly or like constant, profound commentary on the events that are happening. But I really felt it when he had his whole like, time is everywhere and you can't chase it, but it is what we all think about. And you're like, yeah, we do think about it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, time is a constraint in our world. Yes, agreed.
This is true. This is very true.
Yeah, there's nothing new there.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, there's just a better way. Like, so I can see the vision and like the desire and the intent, but I don't think from like a script and a screenplay perspective that I don't think it was effective, but I can appreciate what they were trying to do. But man,
that's good.
That's
more than I can do at this present moment. So it's very good because we need someone to give us hope here. And a beacon into a path forward of understanding.
Yes.
That's what I look for.
Yeah.
The other thing with the metaphor piece and the weirdness piece that we were talking about, I was thinking a lot about Yorgos Lanthimos while watching this movie.
Yes.
Because there feels like a quirkiness and then also like a visual aesthetic that feel very coherent with his style, and then also with especially the concepts and visuals of Poor Things.
Yes.
So I was thinking so much about that. And there's also a lot of weird things that happen in Poor Things too, that you're like, what is going on? But then you think about it and you're like, wait, but that was this whole commentary on this dynamic that's very real in human society. And now I want to think about that. And not every weird thing that's happening, you're like, let me lean in more. And so I was thinking about that comparison because there's a lot of weird things that happen in this movie that we can't wait to talk about. But they don't have extra layers, or at least if they do, I am not seeing and understanding and comprehending them yet. But that comparison in my head was really fascinating to like juxtapose, like, why did it work well in this other context versus in this context it feels more wandering.
Yes. Yeah. And something like Poor Things, you want to think about that movie more. Because there's enough on the surface of Poor Things that it makes sense. You know, it's as
literal.
Weird as it is, it really is a coming of age story. And so that's a very easy plot for us to follow. We've all watched a million coming of age stories. And so then on top of that very simple plot, then you can layer in all of the complex and weird world building, and it doesn't feel overwhelming because we're following such a simple story. But I feel like with Megalopolis, it's so many characters that we're following. We don't know at times who the protagonist is. There are antagonists, maybe, but that's confusing. And then we don't know what anybody wants, really. So then we don't know what we're working towards. So there's no real progress. So like it's the construction of the story is complex, and then the world is complex, and all of the visuals are complex. So then I feel like it gets muddled because we don't know what we're following. We don't know who we're following. We don't know what the point is. Whereas Poor Things, that simplicity really helps make it digestible. And then we have the brain space to go deeper after that.
Yeah. It's so funny because y'all can't see right now, but like in that whole segment, Sarah's brows were so furrowed that I swear they became one. It was one brow because they connected in the middle. It was a truly 4D experience that I just had right there. That was amazing. I feel like we broke through a new dimension of podcast conversations that I didn't know I needed, but wow.
I'm glad that I can make that happen for you. I didn't know that was a desire of your heart, so there we go.
But yeah, I think there's too many characters. or at least I think
so
we're
many.
following too many characters.
Yes.
Had we stuck with one of them, any one of them, they're all so interesting.
Yeah.
Different story. It would have been a different story.
Mm-hmm.
We could have still had all of the other characters, but every single one of them has a full arc, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we needed an anchor point.
Yes.
Badly.
Yeah.
Something to latch onto.
And I think that Adam Driver's character was supposed to be that for us, but I just found him so tedious. I would like he would start talking and I would be like, "Oh my god, can you just stop? I can't with you anymore." And so there was nothing there for me to connect with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to follow him,
Mm-hmm.
even though I think he was supposed to be our anchor.
I love that tedious is the new biggest roast that I could ever hear.
I was, especially toward the end, there was like some monologue or something that he had, and I was just like, "Are you done yet? Like, can we get a move on here? Like, I don't want to hear you talk anymore."
I mean, I love Adam Driver.
You do.
So much.
Yes.
So deeply. I think his choices in who to work with and what types of projects is really fascinating. I was thinking a lot about that while watching this movie. I'm like, what was it about this movie that really captivated him, that made him interested? Because he's clearly giving it all.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Which I was like, okay, that's my nice thing to say about this movie. Is that Adam Driver really like wears his heart on his sleeve and gives a full dedicated performance. And there's a lot of like big, fun, showy acting stuff that he gets to do in this movie. So he gives it his all. But I was curious, like, there's clearly something about this that was like fascinating to him, and he's willing to like pick these projects that like are really out there. And that comes to mind as one that we reviewed. A lot, it's similar, a lot in common too. Yeah. These things that are like big and dramatic and like big feeling moments, also very strange and very weird, but very like emotive. So there's something about this that like, I mean, we talked about this briefly on our walk home, but star-studded. Yes. Star-studded. I mean, it's Copley, like working with a legend, honestly. It makes a lot of sense, but wow, stacked cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that Adam Driver gives a great performance. It's a very like theater performance,
yes.
You know, and there are certain moments too where I was like, oh my gosh, no, you should be on a stage doing this, not on a movie screen doing this.
Yeah.
Because it just translates so differently. But you're right, this cast list is stacked. Yeah. When the movie first started, there are these like bigger scenes where you see the ensemble together, and there were so many moments they'd show a new character and I'd be like, you're in this? You're in this?
Yeah.
Like, there were just so many people, and that's just so wild to me. Like, obviously, working with a legend.
You'll have to.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But
just to be in his presence and to see his work come to life.
Mm-hmm.
A dream, especially this being his dream project, to get to be in that. Oh, thrilling. It's been thrilling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's include a spoiler. It's been 24 minutes. Time is flight. We could, much to discuss. If you haven't seen Megalopolis, I would say it's worth going to the theater to see.
Yes.
Would you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
because the visuals are stunning.
Some incredible stuff.
Yeah. So, but be prepared to be confused and for it to just be like, I don't know. It's almost one of those like just let the creativity wash over you rather than trying to follow a traditional 3-act structure.
That's a good bit of advice. Yes. That's I wish I knew that going in.
Me too.
And honestly, if you just take each scene as it is, it's a great time. You know what I mean? There's some zany stuff that happens and like, just, okay, this is a little vignette and we're on to the next one versus this overarching arc. I think it's, there's a lot that we take lots of twists and turns along the way. So that is our spoiler and also words of guidance before going into the viewing experience. Can we talk about this ending with the baby who's like ready for a magic carpet ride?
Yeah, like what?
My thought was, this is my thought, was like, there's a moment where Julia says to her father, like, this is the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I was like, that is probably what they were going for, is like, the son is the future, the youth are the future. And so, like, it's this hopeful tail end. Like, let's end on the baby that will come to be and be the next contributor of Megalopolis society. But what's your theory about the baby?
I do not know. So like I have not spent a lot of time around babies. The baby is clearly not to like a crawling stage.
No.
So is that it's just little like lie on one spot blanket? But then like why is it there? Like what are we doing here? And couldn't we have had the same effect with someone holding the baby rather than him like awkwardly putting the child on the floor? It was
the
so
cutest
weird.
baby-sized rug.
It was perfect.
It was perfectly sized.
Yeah.
Custom made.
Wow.
With like mom, dad, grandma, grandpa looking down fondly at them. This very like low angle too.
Yeah. Still a choice that was made.
The youth are the future.
The youth are the future. So we have to build Megalopolis for the youth.
Yeah.
So we need something to give to them because we've destroyed everything else.
Okay, so that was my other question is Megalopolis, kind of there's these like this montage of Megalopolis at the end. Lots of CGI. And Adam Driver, Caesar, gives this like rousing speech to the masses. And in the movie, they seem to like catch the vision. So it feels like Megalopolis is this like hopeful ending vision of the future, which it's not how I viewed it over the course of the movie leading up to that point. So I felt conflicted about that ending. I don't know if it was meant to be hopeful and I'm the problem, or if it was meant to be like, this is gonna be messed up, but like look how quickly the masses buy into this new messed up new society that we're creating. And so it's a cynical ending. Yeah, I'm curious how you read, whether it was hopeful, cynical, like, is the thesis like society will continue to do this in cycles again and again and again, from one empire to the next, or is it like, no, we have hope for building a better future, at least humanity tries. Yeah. Earnestly, very earnestly, with each new generation.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
think that's what's confusing about it is it's not a hopeful movie, you know? And like when they talk about utopia, it's in a negative sense, you know? Like obviously Frank is very much against it. He's very much against everything that Caesar is doing. And so, but by the end, he's willing to like go along with it because of his daughter, but he doesn't actually come around to the idea of a utopia, I don't think. So there's still this like negative quality. So like utopia just doesn't exist. Like it's a cool thing to think about, but it's not practical. It's not real. So that's just another part of this that I'm like, why are we like talking about utopia when we could be talking about something real? But that's fine. We can build Megalopolis. That's cool, bro. But it's so confusing, really. I do wish that there was more of a clear thesis, which is interesting because the movie does hit you over the head with the Roman Empire metaphor so strongly. And yet there, at least for me, wasn't like a clear stance or like resolution to that. And you alluded to this earlier, but like the film utilizes some very strong imagery. Like we see a Nazi symbol, we see Hitler, we see Mussolini, like there
We
are
see January 6th.
Yes, there are very
Inspired.
strong images in this displayed. And I wish, because if you're going to invoke something like showing Hitler, showing a Nazi symbol, you better have a very good reason for doing it. And that just felt like it was like a slap in the face. And it came out of nowhere, and I didn't know what to do with it because I didn't know what the film was trying to say. I don't know. It seems to be like a negative, like showing all of the negative aspects of empire, but it's never really clear about that. So I wish that everything was a little bit clearer, because there's some things in this movie.
And that's my biggest, I'm feeling the same feelings as the Civil War Alex Garland conversation, because I'm realizing one of my pet peeves in movies is that you can't ignite a strong reaction and then have no point of view on it. If you have a point of view, great. I might not agree, but I'm like bought in full volley. We were comparing this movie on our little stroll home to Saltburn. Also, very strange, very weird. A lot of weird things happen. But there was a perspective which may or may not be as complex or more complex as you want to read into it, around maybe it's as simple as Eat to Rich, maybe not. We have a whole episode about Saltburn. But Saltburn has a very clear vision, very clear point of view, very clear sensibility that it wants to communicate. And so you're like, okay, I will endure the weirdness. And actually, it sparks curiosity about why and how and what it means. Whereas this one feels like it's trying to play in many sandboxes. And I'm like, if we could pick one sandbox, fully stamp, buy into that, you know what I mean? I think I would like be willing to engage with the film a little bit more.
And I think Saltburn is similar to Poor Things. And Saltburn is a simple Eat the Rich storyline. That's all. I mean, when you boil it down, that is what Oliver is doing. It's Eat the Rich. And so we know what that story is like. We understand that structure. And then Emerald Fennell just brilliantly layers all of these other things on top of that. And so if you don't want to think about it any deeper, you have an Eat the Rich storyline. And we love that. That's so much fun. But if that intrigues you and you want to go deeper, there's a lot to unpack. Whereas Megalopolis, there's stuff there to unpack. But I think for me, because the story felt so disjointed, I'm very torn. I don't know that I'm going to unpack those things. The visuals make me want to. The story doesn't make me want to. And so we'll see if I do any homework after this. I might not.
Well, that was one of the questions that I was going to have for you, which is like, do you think you'll be thinking about this movie afterwards? Or is it kind of like, well, I don't know what happened, but 2.5 hours of my life was there. We did that. It's intriguing to me because clearly, like, the creator behind this had such a vision. It was so near and dear. And honestly, the comparison between Rome and the United States and what the future of the United States is so fascinating. Especially because so much of Rome is around the ethos and this concept of the idea of Rome, whatever that means. And I feel like the US has a very similar like sense of pride in our ideals. And I think in the past couple of years, like there's been a deconstruction or a teasing out of what are those ideals and then how much have we actually upheld them, which is so interesting. I just don't think it was in the movie. But that concept and that comparison is really fascinating to unpack.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe that's what it is this movie is just a little overstuffed. Like when you've had an idea for so long, there's this like weird desire to just like keep adding to it because it's just been with you for so long. Whereas I think this film, from a story perspective, needed to be simplified. So if you focus just on that comparison and, I don't know, take that comparison somewhere.
Yeah.
That would be enough.
Yeah.
We don't need to bring in utopia and like all of these other things that this film is trying to grapple with, because I think that that's just a distraction. I also don't know a lot about the Roman Empire, as we discovered in our conversation about Gladiator last week.
This is such a fascinating follow-up to
Yes, it really is.
To Gladiator.
So I don't know if part of the Roman Empire was this desire to create a utopia, and then, I mean, you could probably read into the founding of America this desire to create a utopia. So maybe that's where that comes in. But like, I don't know, man. I don't know a lot about history, so I could be very wrong. So like maybe that's the tie-in, but I don't know, that the utopia piece of it seems to almost like take over the film. And so then it ends up being its own thing rather than being interconnected with some of these other themes and metaphors.
Yeah. Maybe there was just too much.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. And a 1 2 hour and 18-minute feature movie could not hold all of that. Because one of the things that I thought was so interesting that I was waiting to see them explore, but maybe they just didn't have time to, was this whole concept of Megalon?
Yes, I think so.
Is that what it's called?
I think so. I don't know.
The substance that is invisible, makes you invisible, and that Caesar's building the Megalopolis based on that. There's a whole set of commentary that I feel like the movie has suggested around like science and technology and innovation, but then like the like unethical practices that we have, because they kept talking about how Megalon was potentially like really toxic or unsafe for people, but I don't feel like we got to see that unfold as much as I was expecting to.
Yeah.
So that's also why the ending feels ominous, because I'm like, this whole society is literally gonna like potentially poison the entire human population. Yeah. You know? And so again, a concept that's thrown in there, they reference it a bunch of times, but there's a whole movie just on that.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Well, and then he gets it in his face. Like, and so that's the perfect, you know, that's your middle of the movie is that, you know, or even like the end of the first act is that, where he gets the surgery done and it's on his face, and then things spiral out of control from there. Like, that is a movie right there. And it's just like randomly referenced. There's also that piece with that singer. That whole thing was just so weird.
Okay, but that was so interesting.
Right, like she's wearing the dress and she's invisible. You can see right through me. Like, there's a lot there too that I thought was really interesting. I wish that the dialogue was better, but I did find that really interesting, especially given today our desire for, you know, transparency and authenticity and like all of these things online, and like, welcome to my home, but it's like perfectly curated, you know, all of that. And so this idea of like, oh, you can see right through me, I'm being so transparent, I'm so loved, it's not actually real, and it's just an image that you project. So I thought that was an interesting take on something that we experience every day.
In the age of like social media and public figures and image making. But then also on the topic of image making, the fake video that felt and looked really real, the deep fake, fascinating also, because it was a political attack that was done with lies and misinformation that like they happened to discover in the movie was fake and not real, but like the intended effect was there, which is that like masses' opinions are swayed by what feels like something that's true. Yeah. And so that's woven in there too, which is awesome. I loved that.
Yes.
But that whole thing was shot so strangely.
It was very odd.
And then we cut to like January 6th bros that are like out with their signs and then like crawling on the moon things, being like, let's take out Cicero.
Yeah.
Being very aggressive.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, a lot is happening.
Yeah, and I just wish that it came together a little bit more clearly, because it's interesting ideas that are all tied in here. And I don't know, there's a lot of things that these various symbols could mean, but it's just like, how do I put all of them together? Because they don't seem to fit together.
Yeah.
Because then you also have Aubrey Plaza's character, who is kind of a propaganda machine, but she's also like really manipulative and uses sex to gain power over men. And so I feel like there's probably some things with her that could be interesting, but it's also just so weird. I'm like, Aubrey Plaza, what are you doing in this movie?
Yes.
What are we doing here?
She does her job quite well.
She does. She's very effective.
Very effective indeed. I was rooting for her at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, you go, girl.
Yeah. She's calculated. Yeah. She knows what she wants. Yeah. And unafraid to go for it. Mm-hmm. A little harder to root for her towards the second half of the movie.
Yeah, it's not great.
Not great. Not great, but, as we unpack it and read into it, it's like commentary on like that felt like her last option.
Yes.
Because there's that distinct moment where she has this like what feels like very real emotion for Caesar, and then he rejects her. Yeah. And then her career is tumbling or whatever, and she feels like for her own survival, out of desperation, she must sell her body to gain power by getting together with that very old man.
Yeah.
And then seeing how effective that was, then continues to use that as her only means of like cards to play in this game that is dominated by like literally all men. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay, the female characters in this movie.
Oh my goodness.
Can we talk about them? I really struggled most, honestly, with Julia's character.
Yes.
I struggled so much.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I the problem?
No. Definitely not.
Oh, okay. Tell me your thoughts.
It just didn't make sense. Nothing she did made sense. Because when we first see her, she's like this party girl. She's having so much fun. She's out with her friends, doing her thing. Yeah. And then, she's with her dad. And their relationship made me very uncomfortable. Like, I don't like that. At one point, she's like sitting on his lap, and I was like, "You are grown. Yeah, this is inappropriate.
I felt that too.
Not the business." So like that was uncomfortable, and we see their relationship is very. There's some friction there between the two of them, and then it's like, okay, well, that's like father-daughter business
because he's a public figure, and she's
just wanting to have fun, you know. But then she takes it upon herself to try and save, I don't know, like fix the rift between her dad and Caesar. And there's no, like,
then she wants to kill him at one point, but does that happen before or after she wants to fix the rift? She wants to kill Caesar at one point. Okay.
Right? Because that's when she goes to his...
Yeah, but I don't know. Usually if I'm trying to kill someone, I don't want to then seek reconciliations. Like, so literally 5 seconds after.
In the same conversation. So, like, I don't understand her motivation. And I don't get how we get there. Yeah. I get, like, once she's in, she kind of gets, like, swept up in the cult. And so, like, that makes sense to me. She's in his orbit. She just wants to be around him. I get it. It happens. It is what it is.
I wanted so much more for her.
But the getting to that point, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why are you here?
Well, she, like, stalks him at one point and follows him. Yeah. But at that point, I don't think she's necessarily in love with him yet, though. You know? Yeah. So, I don't know why she's stalking him. If she was wanting to kill him, I would understand why she's stalking him, because like that's very logical to me, like you need to follow them into a very secret dark place that nobody will see you when you take them out. So like, okay, that makes sense. Also, her poor friend
Oh my
that was
gosh.
driving her around.
Right?
And she's like, hold on, I gotta get out now.
Also,
I have to go watch him go to, what was purgatory?
yes.
Or like,
yeah,
was that a metaphor? I didn't know.
Yeah, so
His wife's old home, I'm assuming.
what
That
what
whole
I
bit.
don't understand about that is you have Adam Driver's car, and then Julia is also following him. And then you have Shia LaBeouf's character, who's in that long, like, stretch truck or whatever, who's also following. And there's almost like a confrontation between Adam Driver's car and Shia LaBeouf's car, but then you don't see Julia's car in any of that, even though she's following.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. What are we doing? Where did Julia's car go when these two other cars were having an issue? And then you have to see the little Citron trying to outrun this long, extended escalade or whatever it is. It was just utterly ridiculous. Did not make sense. Then he stops for flowers. Then he braids his dead wife's hair. And it was just...
But like potentially
weird.
Not. Potentially he wasn't actually. And it was just like
so weird.
His imagination and longing.
Yes.
Right? Because then we see from her perspective that it wasn't actually. Like he's just braiding the air.
Yeah. So is that like he recreated his wife using the substance?
Oh, is that what that thing can do?
I don't know. Because it wasn't, she couldn't see it, but he was clearly doing something.
I thought he was just like delusional, like just.
Oh, sure. I guess that works too.
Longing and. But the on-screen visuals had this like sheen and this sparkle. So you're like, I don't know, is this real or not? They also call it purgatory.
Yes.
But I was like, is that actually just like a fantastical aspect of this movie, or is that like the name of a place, but like a code name between him and Lawrence Fishburne, but then also supposed to insinuate a metaphor of some kind of.
So that's kind of why I think that like he like created that is because like purgatory, you're stuck. You're stuck.
I see.
So it's that. So his wife is
died there, stuck in purgatory, and then okay.
And so like. Because they hadn't found the body, so he hasn't had closure. So maybe this is like his way to like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This could have been a whole like murder detective mystery too.
There's so much to this movie. It's too many movies in one.
At one point I was like, did he kill her or not? But then I was like distracted by 10 million other things that happened in the next moment. So I was like, I don't have time to think about that right now.
Well, and then in the conversation between Caesar and Frank, then Frank is like, I committed crimes, and here's my proof that I like pursued you for the death of your wife, even though like I knew where her body was or whatever. And it's like prosecutorial misconduct business going on. And he's just like casually throwing this out there. I'm like, number one, y'all don't see eye to eye. So why are you giving him ammo? This is not how this game is played, sir. Number two, why are we adding more complexity to this? We didn't need more complexity. We needed simplicity here.
Yeah. Ugh. I really think this is like at least 12 movies in one movie. I'm so convinced as we're talking through it. And like there's so many plot lines.
Yes. That
a full movie could be about that whole dynamic and a whole detective mystery, but then you get that twist at the end, which was like, Caesar's painted as this bad guy because whatever, but then actually plot twist.
Yeah.
His lover's dad that is also his rival. There's a whole set of fun things you could play in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I had a thought while watching this movie, which is that it feels like this movie was written by AI. Not because of some of the other reasons why we will make that comment, but because there are actually so many like legendary classic film plot tropes, lines, devices that are all in this movie. You know, you have like political maneuvering, you've got like big set pieces, you've got like people falling in love and having a child, and then like relational dynamics. Like there's so much in here. You've got like science, technology, twistedness, and then you've got a whole kind of coup that's also budding as well. With we haven't talked about Claudio's whole plot line with Shia LaBeouf. Like, so there's like literally so many foundational aspects of all of our movies that we've ever seen that are all in this one movie. It's the Megalopolis of a movie. Really.
Yeah.
Which is also its problem.
Yes.
But also really fascinating to see it all in one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah. I think if the dialogue was better, a lot would be solved for.
I agree.
A lot would be really fun.
Yes.
If the dialogue was good.
There were just like, because I was tracking with parts of this, and then there were certain moments of dialogue where I was like, really? This was the best that you could come up with? When Juliet reveals to Caesar that she's pregnant, he just says, baby? Baby? I was like, that's it. Like, I would imagine that that's a very shocking thing, but we couldn't have more than just one word said.
Yeah.
We couldn't string together. It could even be an incoherent thought. Could we get more than one word?
Oh, Caesar's not very in these things, you know. I just
that's true.
Oh, okay. All right.
She's trying to be like so subtle. The future is really important, especially now. What?
Well, it feels like every character is saying an epic line as if the thing is like a movie will have like 2 to 3 epic lines, right? That you're like, oh, mic drop moment.
Yeah.
Strings swell.
Yes.
Like that was something really meaningful. But this is like every line is that.
Yes.
And therefore the law of diminishing return just can't work. You know what I mean? We needed like big moments of like something profound about what empire means or like how we build the future.
Yeah.
Something wise and profound, you know? And then mic drop moment, let that simmer, let that sit, and then that becomes like the thesis of the movie, you know? It's like it's not your fault of Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Say that effect, but like every line feels like it's supposed to be having that effect.
Yeah.
And so, and the characters deliver it with such like gusto too, that you're like, just every conversation feels like an epic movie moment.
Yeah, like it felt like they were delivering lines from a play. Yeah, because like that's how you deliver those lines.
Yeah.
But you don't deliver it that way in a movie because it's a different medium.
Yeah.
And so while I appreciate the skill that it takes to do that, it almost feels out of place. And then it's so over the top that I'm like, is this farcical in some way? Like, are we poking fun? Am I supposed to laugh at this? Or is this, how am I supposed to react to this? And I don't know.
That's where I go to when things that I feel like don't work, but I need an explanation. It's just to be like, but maybe this was all intentional.
Yeah.
You know, I've said that so many times. I'm like, maybe this was like a satire of how we do this in movies. I don't think that's what's happening in this movie. I think I said this on the Fall Guy too. I was like, maybe. And I'm like, I think it just didn't work. But the generous, hopeful read could be, or poking fun of it. I don't think that's the case.
But then again, like, if that is the goal, that's cool. Yeah, let's make fun of Empire. Sure, why not? Yeah. But like, do that and have a reason, you know, like why is humor the best way to explore this topic, or why is the like over the top grandiosity of it all, how is that the best way to explore this theme?
Yeah.
Whereas this, it all just feels out of place, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Better dialogue would have helped make this more
Helps
possible.
so much.
For sure.
Yes.
Okay, other big thoughts.
I have a few little things.
Okay.
Number one, and I already mentioned it, but I want to mention it again. I love that Caesar's car is a Citroen DS. It's such a fun little car. It was just so much fun to see on the screen. So I just got excited anytime they were driving anywhere because I got to look at that car because they're just so
I don't
cool.
even remember what his car looked like.
Oh,
There were
so
10 million other things my brain cells were preoccupied by.
I'll show
You'll
you a
have to
picture.
You'll have to show me it.
It's just such a quirky
We were just
little
talking
car.
about how you're a car snob today.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yes. So it's quirky and fun.
Does it feel fitting for the personality? Because cars have personalities. You know? What would you say? What's your review?
Here's the thing.
Yes.
I don't feel like I understand Caesar's personality.
True. He's unknowable.
So, like, to some degree, it does make sense, just because it's such a unique vehicle, and like not a lot of people probably like know about it.
Yeah.
and
he would
know
do
what that
something
car
like
is.
yeah.
Yeah. And then like he does have a very unique visual style, and I feel like the lines of the car do match up with that. And then like his costumes, he's always wearing black. It's a black car, so that also makes sense.
He's such a showman.
Like so I think it kind of does make sense, but I also don't fully know who Caesar is as a character to be confident in that answer.
It sounds like it's big and flat, like it's flashy.
I wouldn't say that it's flashy. It's unique.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's got flair.
He does have flair. And
when he shows up to Aubrey Plaza's character, what's her name?
Wow.
Oh yeah, how could I forget? How could I forget Auntie Wow? God, that scene was so strange. Anyway, when he shows up to her place the first time, he is prancing around with his robe, and it's fitting for the character that has a vision of a megalopolis. You're like, yeah,
that's
of
true.
course you would. Of course you would like do a full sweep of your robe as you like leave.
It was such a good like
mistress
cape twirl.
Like, it was great.
It
was a great exit. It was a great exit.
Yeah,
solid. Okay, other things on your list.
So another just silly thing is, how did this random dude playing a sousaphone go from that to being a henchman who's like buying people off and intimidating people and stuff? I'm like, what is that jump between sousaphone and henchman? Because those are very different things.
He must have been on whatever the same stuff that Julia was on when she made the shift from killing him to loving him.
That's fair. Everybody was doing a lot of drugs.
So many.
Just all the drugs.
See, that direction makes more sense than going the other direction. If you went from henchman to sousaphone.
But maybe the henchman had a change of heart.
And is now like
and
just
his heart
chilling
has
and retired.
Softened, and now he just wants to play the sousaphone.
Because I feel like you give henchman to sousaphone directional energy, and I probably give sousaphone to henchman directional energy if I really had to categorize it.
That is a scale that I never thought that we'd have.
And now I want to think about everybody in my life and be like, which category do you fall into?
Which direction
are you going in? Because I think it's a fascinating way to understand and categorize the people in your life. We've got the Enneagram test, we've got Myers-Briggs, we've also got the sousaphone to henchman spectrum.
Excellent. We got it.
Oh, yeah. So many drugs in this movie.
So many.
Make for some fun, like, visuals.
Yes.
Some fun acting moments.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's some definitely wild moments.
Oh, yeah. Intercut in the weirdest places.
Yes.
That's the other thing I was like, am I supposed to find some kind of connection point meaning here? Because there's one that sticks out in my brain, which is Caesar's whole like descent into kind of this like underground club party. And I think that's happening around the same time that the whole singer
Yes.
star moment is happening.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because they're talking about him and
Mhm.
like there's growing frustration and dissent with him. So then when he's down there, we're like, he's also falling apart as his image and reputation is falling apart. So like, okay,
Yeah.
that one kind of made more sense to me. There's other moments where I'm like, what? Why are we cutting back and forth? I don't get it yet. What the connection point is.
Yeah, and like all of that happens just after. Is is Wow marrying that old man in that scene? Like it's this like almost like wedding
it's a wedding
feast.
It's a wedding feast, yes.
And Roman games are happening, and then we have the singer, and then Caesar's descent.
Yeah,
and it's all happening the same day, the same time.
Same time.
Like,
yes.
that makes no sense to me. I was so confused. Like, how, because it's, if you just have the singer and Caesar, that makes sense. Because those two things are connected. The symbolism, they're both going down at the same time. You could even have a commentary about like how women are treated versus men in a scandal. Like there's a lot there to explore. But when you layer on those other two dimensions, it just gets confusing. Because how do all four of these things connect to each other? And that I'm not sure.
I'm almost envisioning like the conductor's music sheet.
Yes.
And it's like parallel tracks all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Very different in tone, very different in commentary and ideas and theme. But they, like, us as a movie watcher, we're like going measure to measure to measure, having to keep like 4 or 5 like lines of music happening at the same time, because that plot line with Wow and the very old man, I forget his name, but that arc is also developing simultaneously, right? Yep. I think we probably get a few moments with Claudio too.
That's right. Yeah, because he's in drag, and then he gives the deep fake to them to broadcast.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so that's 5 different things that we're following at once.
Exactly. That we're cutting back and forth in.
Jesus.
This is why I have no brain cells after this movie.
That makes a lot of sense.
It makes so much more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot to take in all at once.
It's a lot. Lots of drugs. Maybe this movie's better on something, because you just give yourself over to it.
Just
like
let
to
it
our
wash
advice
over
earlier,
you.
just give yourself over to it. Let it unfold. Okay, other things on your list. Do you have anything else? Did you hit like big ones?
I think that was it. We also saw just a ton of pinky rings. Is the other thing.
Okay, this is one of my favorite movie-going experiences, because we talk about pinky rings all the time, but I got to experience live pinky ring updates, breaking news every couple of minutes, because there's so many in this movie. In the first 15 minutes of this movie. Yeah. It's unfolding. We're getting acquainted. I just hear Sarah Lena be like, there's a pinky ring on that guy. Oh, there's another one on that guy. And I was like, it's true. Oh my goodness.
There's so many.
Everyone's a bad guy. Which tracks. Yeah. We collected so many data points. This has been a breakthrough day in the pinky ring data collection phase of this thesis building.
Yeah. So...
Did you list them?
This is what I can remember off the top of my head. So Caesar has one. Frank doesn't.
He doesn't?
Yeah. Claudio has 2, but he's inconsistent with his throughout the film.
Okay.
John Voight's character, Crassus, has one. Lawrence Fishburne's character has one. Jason Schwartzman's character has one. And then there's a couple more like old dudes. Dustin Hoffman's character has one as well. So yeah, like a couple more of the old guys have them. Wow. So there's quite a few in this one, which makes sense because it's all opulence and wealth, and a lot of times that level of wealth is not always gotten by I don't know, on the up and
the
up.
cleanest means. Oh, heck no. Especially not if we're talking about like political infighting in a large empire that is corrupt.
Yes.
Lots of old dudes at the top with pinky rings.
Yeah.
And they all are popping up in the first like 10 minutes of the movie.
Oh my gosh, there were so many.
Wow, that's a good collection.
Yeah.
I think the only other movie that would rival this that I can remember that had this many is the one, oh gosh, I wish I remembered the title. It's the really violent one. There's train scene, there's the Yakuza.
Bullet Train.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
good memory.
A ton in that one.
Yep.
The other one, was it Casino?
Oh yeah, that tracks too.
I had I remember watching that movie and I was like making my notes as I was watching, and then after I had to Control F and find all the times that I had written pinky ring and smush them all together so that they were all in one list, because there were so many throughout the movie.
That's crazy.
So I think those are the only two that had more than I think I saw in this one.
Yeah, and in my book, the mafia are not bad men, so those data points don't count in my book. These ones, oh my goodness. Yeah, these are fabulous for our thesis building. Breakthrough day.
Oh, I remember two other little details that I was fixated on. One of them is Frank uses a cane inconsistently.
Oh.
And I needed to know why. And the movie was uninterested in telling me why, because he doesn't use a cane, and then he uses a cane when they go to Megalopolis, or go to Caesar and Julia's house. And then when he confronts Caesar and shows him the red envelope or whatever, he doesn't use a cane.
Yeah.
And then when they get on the train, he's using a cane again.
Yeah.
So I had some questions.
Does he not want to use it in the presence of his foes? Because I don't know. But he needs the bravado.
Yeah, I guess that could be. But it almost seemed like he needed it. Also, like, he's seen you use a cane before, you know? So, like, what are you trying to prove here?
Right.
It didn't make sense to me. So I was really, like, hyper-fixated on the cane. And then the other thing that I thought was really funny is when Julia was looking through her dad's files, and she was specifically like, I'm going through his DA files about the case.
Oh yeah.
And all she pulls out is newspaper clippings. And I'm like, number one, he probably shouldn't have DA files just lying around his house. That feels not correct. Number two, why would he have only newspaper clippings in his DA files? What are we doing here?
But also, like, this is not evidence of anything either. Like, let's look at the hard evidence. Like, this is all just like public opinion and masses of like, ooh, body not found. And she's like, ooh, maybe he killed her. Like, you have gathered no new information. Yes. Essentially.
Yeah. It's purely,
other than rumors.
Yeah. It's purely to just let us as the audience know.
Yeah. But I question her judgment in general. That's really true. She is so in his orbit that I found it so frustrating to watch. Because she's so fun and spunky and has so much agency. She's rebelling against her father because she wants this freedom. So I'm like, she's going to be such a fun character to watch.
Yeah.
And then she just becomes a woman in the orbit of a very powerful, ambitious man.
Yep.
And like in love, like defers to him on so many things. So, well, and you see, as her friend, I would like her to get out of that relationship.
Yes, ASAP.
Yes,
but I mean, it's similar with WoW too.
Yeah,
because she has less power, but she is influential. She speaks her mind. Like she has she has agency and a clear sense of purpose, but she is beholden to Caesar.
Yeah,
and why?
Both of them. There's that scene where they're like, who's mine? No, he's mine. Right? But I was like, oh, he is not all that anyway. Come on, ladies. So, yeah. Female characters, not the best.
Great.
Not the best. As far as how they're written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I feel like there's so much here that could be really interesting to explore about like what it means to be a woman in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain scenes that kind of hint at that, but it's very clearly written not by a woman and not wanting to explore any of those things and wanting to really focus on these powerful men instead, which is fine. But I'm like, can't we at least make the women just a little more realistic? I don't know. Like,
yes, and just not like, going off their lovesick emotions for this very tedious man, as you called him. Okay, but a female character that I loved. Yes, Julia's mother.
Oh, yes, she's perfect.
It's so funny. One of my favorite moments that we both bust out laughing at was when Cicero has a dream. It's like a nightmare. She rolls over with her like face mask on. She's like, dream. He like goes on about something. She rolls over, goes back to bed. End scene. Next scene. It's so great.
She's a queen. Like,
what a gem.
Literal perfection.
Okay. Any other last big thoughts about Megalopolis?
I don't think so. I can't even remember if we missed anything because this thing was just so.
We missed everything, and
yes,
yeah. I think we hit a lot of the big stuff.
I think so too.
I'm very curious to see how people think about this movie.
Yes, me too.
Like, it's so fresh. We literally finished watching it 2 hours ago. At this point. And so this is us just processing our live feelings, trying to make sense of them. But it will be interesting to see, like, as this sits more, what comes to light, and then how are other people like teasing this out, especially because this is like one of our greatest directors, who's done iconic works and this dream project, this passion project that he's self-funded, you know what I mean? There's clearly this like conviction he has about telling this story for this moment in time. And I'm like, we got to pay attention. We got to unpack it somehow, you know? I'm like, what are we missing? There's something, there's, it's worth for that alone to see him literally like sell his property, like self-fund this to make it happen after from 77 to now, like nearly 50 years of time. Yeah. So,
well, and
feels like a puzzle
to self-fund this so he can make it the way that he wants, knowing that he's going to lose an astronomical amount of money. Because people don't go see movies like this. They're like, that money that he spent will never be recouped. And it was still worth it to him to create this. And that I find fascinating.
So many like questions and curiosities about that. And we will be intrigued to see what the analysis of this movie is, especially as it continues to sit and saturate. We were so pleased walking into our theater today. That it was so much more full than I expected it to be. We were joking earlier, like, it'll be you, me, and our popcorn at this Megalopolis screening because who's going to see this? But I would say the theater was like maybe like 1/3 full. Like there was at least like
there was a good smattering.
It was a small theater, but still a good sized crowd for a movie like this. On a random weekday night. That was really encouraging.
Yes, I agree. I honestly didn't expect it. I thought that it would be the two of us and maybe like 1 to 2 other people in the theater. But there was quite a few.
So that was really neat to see the show up. Showing up. Okay. Well, this is our review and very real, live, very fresh feelings and reactions and thoughts about Megalopolis. You can find it available out in theaters. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Movies and Us that we're recording live together, IRL. So fun. Our name, Movies and Us, sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories. So everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review letting us know your thoughts about Megalopolis. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Movies and Us Pod, or you can email us at moviesanduspod@gmail.com. We will be back next week to discuss the film Ghostlight. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you again real soon.